Okay, let's go over some of the key important differences between the Fuji X-T2 and the Fuji X-T1. Yes, I have the vertical battery grip attached to the X-T1 currently. One of the major changes, especially we'll go from the front to the top to the back and then talk about the camera differences. One of the key complaints on the Fuji X-T1 is that the menu select buttons were too recessed. That issue was taken care of in the X Pro 2 and has continued to follow to the X-T2. They're not as recessed. Before you had to actually dig your fingernail almost into the menu select buttons to hit them. Not the case on the X-T2 and also the X Pro 2. The elimination of the focus assist button has been removed from the Fuji X-T1, and like on the X-T10, which actually came after the Fuji X-T1, we have clickable front and rear command dials that do not exist on the Fuji X-T1 but do on the X Pro 2 and on the X-T2, so we're able to eliminate out that button. Differences on the rear LCD displays, and then we'll talk about the removable iCup finder. Let's talk about the rear displays. Anybody that has an X-T1 knows how you can actually swivel it in and out. No surprise there. We can also do the same with the X-T1, swivel it in and out the same as on the X-T1, but additionally so what we have here on the side is a latch, and what that latch does is it unlatches the main LCD from this C bracket that it's attached to that lets you do movies like this or like vertical shots in this manner by looking down at a lower angle. So that is the additional mobility of the rear LCD display on the Fuji X-T2, and that locks into place back into its control, back into its C bracket, and then it returns to normal functions just as the X-T1 does. There's that bracket now that is attached to the rear display that is locked over here via this latch. That's a key difference there. On the iCup, now this is actually the iCup that came standard with the X-T1. Now this was an available option that people really loved. Now I wear glasses. I don't have an issue with this deep extended iCup that Fuji calls it. But as you can see here, this is the actual factory standard iCup that ships with the Fuji X-T2, and it is the same as the extended iCup, except it is more shallow. So we have the same general extended iCup profile, but for glasses users, even though I'm one, I have no issue with any of them. What they did is they just removed out how deep this extended iCup extends. And you can also take this extended iCup if you want it for more light cupping and place it and remove it from the X-T2 with this deeper iCup. But you can see here right there the difference between the two. This is the extended iCup. Okay, so now let's go back between the two. If we actually take a look at the top dials, oops, it's hard to hold a wobbly camera with the lenses on. You actually see how much higher the dials are on the X-T2 as opposed to the X-T1. Okay. Also on shutter speed and exposure compensation, you can see how much higher they are. Additionally so, on the top of the camera, we have clickable releases for the knobs. Over here on the X-T1 we had to hold these in to actually turn them, but on the X-T2 you can click these in or out, or you can leave them out. I actually prefer to leave them out all the time. There's plenty enough resistance that these are not like, you know, spinning a wheel at the carnival where you're going to sit there and accidentally hit it. I mean, you could accidentally hit it and turn it, but there's plenty enough resistance that me personally, I leave them unlocked all the time, and this is the lock position and that's the unlock position. Now we've removed the movie button, which is located right here on the X-T1. It does not exist on the X-T2. It has been transposed to, if I could focus here a little bit, to a subset on the command dial with a little movie icon. Take my glasses off here and focus. Okay. There you can see it right there. Now we're in the movie mode. Bracketing, continuous high, continuous low, single. Okay. One big plus And I think everybody should buy one of these. They're like $2. You can get them in any size or flavor. Is a soft shutter release button, because the X-T2 has a threaded shutter release. The X-T1 does not. It's just a flat button. There's nothing you could do with it. I prefer this. It actually gives me a higher raise, and it also gives me a larger area and is more comfortable to use this, which screws in to the shutter release button on the Fuji X-T2. Additionally, so on the compensation wheel, the exposure compensation wheel, we have +3 and -3 on the X-T1, and that's it. However, we have the same, but additionally so, on the X-T2, +3, -3, but right now I'm in C mode. And what that lets me do when I actually place it on C mode is that this does not become the exposure compensation wheel anymore. It is transposed to the front command dial, and I get a possibility of doing +5 and -5 exposure compensation. So we have +3, -3 here on the exposure compensation wheel, but once I bring it to C, this function is now completely removed to the front, and I have additionally so 2 more additional stops. So I have +5 and -5. Huge addition, while we do have a front function button here, the same as we do on the X-T1, a huge advantage. To me, it's absolutely enormous, is the fact that I can reprogram this button to be the playback button. I hated before on the X-T1 where I was actually shooting and I have to bring out my other hand to hit the play button. Okay, shoot, do whatever, hit the button with my other hand. But I don't have to do that now with the X-T2. I've got this reprogrammed as a playback button. So now all I have to do is use my middle finger to hit the playback button. I can return to shooting, shoot, playback. I don't have to bring my hand up here anymore to hit the play button. That's a huge boon. Let's also take a look additionally at the back of the camera. The actual ridge, it sits up, with the micrometer, I need to measure it, it sits up about 4.5 millimeters higher, this thumb ridge rest on the X-T2, than it does on the X-T1. If I can actually show you the side profile there on the X-T2 versus on the X-T1. Additionally so, now, I don't call it a focus lever. All Americans call this a joystick. It's the implementation of this on the X Pro 2, which also exists now on the X-T2. We actually have a joystick in here, a clickable and programmable joystick. Lets me immediately change my focus points. Okay. Also, huge advantage, one thing that everybody was complaining about was this on the X-T1, the floppy side door. After much use, especially hand, this is rubber. That in the sweat of your hand from using it like this door will become floppy. I mean, my door is already a little bit floppy. That sounds weird, right? Floppy door. So people were complaining about that. That has been solved on the Fuji X-T2. We don't have a floppy door anymore. It is a positive. I don't know if the insert is plastic and the outside is rubberized. Also, additionally so, we've changed the side door. It doesn't actually fold out anymore like on the X-T1 where you actually pull it out and it flops open. We have a little latch on the side with SD card slots 1 and SD card slots number 2. Additionally so, you'll notice on the top dial, we're not limited by ISO 6400, which is our peak, but rather 12,800 on the Fuji X-T2. Trying to think of any additional details or points to actually tell you about. I think I've actually gone over them all. Obviously the X-T2 is a wee bit thicker and just a smidge taller. If you squint your eyes, both of them without the vertical grip, at about 5 feet or so, you'd think they're the same camera. Really, the ergonomics are about the same. You do have a little bit bigger of a palm swell here, reminiscent of the design change on the Nikon D750 than you do on the Fuji X-T1. It actually swells out more. This actual ridge on the X-T2 actually swells out more. Gives you a better grip for either large or for small hands. At least that's what I've found, and that's also what other people report back. There has been a change in the battery. I've mentioned now extensively that you do not want to use the X-T1 battery and the X-T2. You can if you want to do single shot photography, but there's a different discharge profile which changes resistance building up in the X-T1 battery if you're to use the X-T1 battery in the X-T2, so do not do that. It will work, but if you start to write to both cards at the same time and you're sitting there at continuous high and you're slamming the X-T2 with an X-T1 battery in it, the camera will seize up like an old dude with a stroke. So my recommendation is for you to buy new X-T2 batteries, which are the NP126S, S suffix, which should stand for super. Let's just think of 126S, S for super. I'm pretty sure that's not what they thought of when they designated that for the battery. Oh, additionally we have one additional metering mode. We have spot, center, and average on the X-T1 here. Spot, center, and average. Okay. Spot, matrix, and average, excuse me. Spot, matrix, and average, excuse me. Spot, matrix, and average. Apologize for that. And on the Fuji X-T2, we have spot, we have center, we have matrix, and then we have average. So we have one additional metering feature on the Fuji X-T2 that does not exist on the X-T1. And I'm pretty much sure that sums it up. As far as build quality, they're both magnesium chassis. They're both made in Japan. As far as evaluating the quality of the build construction, as someone that can actually can and does fix cameras and been doing so for ages, I can say that the build quality is basically identical between the two. By basically, do I mean totally? Well, yes, I really do mean totally. So if I said basically, someone would actually come back and say, like, well, what do you mean basically? What's wrong with it? Well, there's nothing wrong with it. There is no perfect camera, but the build quality is the same. I would not say there's one hair difference between the build quality of either one. Several significant improvements, and love the implementation of the playback feature on the front, the larger raised command dials, the additional metering mode capability, the raised menu buttons. That's a huge boon. General improvements, 4K video recording, but I don't need to go over the specifications. You can certainly get that anywhere. But those are the design ergonomics and the changes, generally speaking, between the two. And like I said, the iCup. The X-T2 basically is like a hybrid between a standard iCup and the extended iCup, which is here. You can see that it's more shallow. It's not as deep. And either one will work. If you want to get an extended iCup on there and you don't wear glasses, I do, and I find no issue with any of them actually, so, but that's just me. Then you can certainly exchange those two. And thanks for watching. Those are the differences, the external primary key differences between the Fuji X-T1 and the Fuji X-T2. Thanks for watching. Bye.